Almost everywhere I go these days, I hear from leaders that they're running too hard and carrying too many responsibilities. My challenge to anyone in this situation is to get clear about the kind of leader you desire to become, and then to align the activities on your schedule that will help you reach that goal. For me and for the leaders on my team, the Global Leadership Summit is one of the most strategic initiatives we engage in when it comes to our own leadership development. No matter where you lead, the summit is a world-class experience to help you get better and embrace your grander God-designed vision. I invite you to join me and an expected 260,000 leaders from all around the world for 2 days of vision, inspiration, and countless practical skills you can put to work Monday morning. The full lineup joining me at the summit this year includes Ed Catmull, Sally Krawcheck, Adam Grant, Brian Houston, Sam Adeyemi, Sheila Heen, Jim Collins, Albert Tate, Horst Schulze, Brene Brown, Liz Wiseman, and Craig Groeschel. For more than 2 decades now, I have experienced the summit's transformational impact in people's lives. Among repeat summit attendees, 83% feel improved teamwork has increased their job satisfaction and productivity. 81% cited concrete ways that their supervisor has become a better leader. No matter what kind of leader you desire to become, there's just nothing like being in an environment of like-minded men and women, learning from one another how to embrace the grander vision God has called each one of us to. And that's why I unashamedly challenge every leader I know to attend the summit. It's the most fruitful investment leaders can make in those they lead. See you at the summit.
Alan Catherine Kajina's 20-year career as a public servant has been marked by her fight against corruption in her role as leader of the Ugandan Revenue Authority. Previously known for its unethical practices, she would say that it was her faith in God that helped spur the URA's journey. A reformer and innovator, Alan focused the URA on the greater good for Uganda. Her aim was not just to acquire more revenue, but to move the country from a borrower to a giver nation. This advance allowed the government to pay its debts and fund its plan for developing Uganda. As a result, the URA has become a model public institution for developing countries. Alan has become a recognized leader in the area of resource management and has become a sought-after speaker in international forums on the subject.
Good morning. I want to thank Gary for inviting me. I think it was January this year that he called and said, would you come and be one of the speakers? And I think you took a big risk. Let's see if God will honor your faith. Most of you here will have paid your taxes. You have filed a return, and you'd probably have done so grudgingly. And some of you here you love to hate the IRS. I work for the IRS, or I work for the Ugandan Revenue Authority, which is, like the IRS here. And I have to say God has done incredible things in that tax authority. But let me give you just a backdrop to my story. And this is just some stats on Africa that I picked on the internet, something that you can just do yourself. In 2013, Africa was the world's fastest growing continent at 5.6% a year. And GDP is expected to rise by an average of over 6% between 2013, last year, and 2023. 2, World Bank expects that most African countries will reach middle income status, which is defined as at least $1,000 per person a year by 2025 if current growth rates continue. The rate of return on investment in Africa is currently the highest in the developing world. And I think you heard yesterday Jeffrey Mel talk about the investment of General Electric in Africa. I think he said $6 billion. 4, poverty in Africa, or poverty in sub-Saharan Africa, has also declined. You see a lot of pictures with kids flies on their faces. Well, the media doesn't do us justice. An estimated 58% of people in the region were living on less than $1.2 a day around the turn of the millennium. By 2010, the poverty headcount ratio declined by almost 10 percent points to an estimated 48%, and it's still going down. However, in March last year, Africa was identified as the world's poorest inhabited continent. Why? Why is a continent that seems to be doing so well also so poor? Well, many reasons, one of which is corruption, and it is a major source of slow development in Africa and making us the poorest continent in the world. My story. My story is the story of how God came into URA and changed what was one of the most corrupt public institutions in Uganda. In fact, every year Transparency International does a perception index, and pre-2004 we would compete favorably with the police for position number 1 or number 2 in that index. And I'd been in this organization for 13 years up to 2004. And it didn't compute, it didn't make sense to me that I, who was a Christian who believed God could change any place, could also be in an institution that was previously known as a den of thieves. Very corrupt, very inefficient, very high-handed and arrogant, and really not treating the public very well. But in 2004, the job that I now hold became vacant. And I was naive enough to believe that God could change anything. Some friends of mine, we'd been praying for about 2 years, trusting and believing God could change this organization. We were Christians, we were in this organization, we were all known as thieves. And for me, that was very painful. But I was also angry that nothing was happening. There was injustice. We were not raising enough money to fund government programs, and government programs that are so important for children, for poor communities in Uganda. So once I got the job, and I have no training in business, my background is psychology and administration, so I kind of thought, oh my God, what have I done? I remember one journalist asking me, everybody who has come and done this job has failed. Why do you think you will succeed? Like I said, I was naive enough to believe that once you bring God into the marketplace, he doesn't know the division between church and politics. He doesn't know the division between church and business. We are the ones who build these walls. And so I thought, okay, if God comes in and we pray, perhaps things will change. And I remember one pastor walking into my office. We're going through these major reforms, and it was very dangerous and frightening. And I was telling him, I don't feel the support of the church. I don't feel like they're there, covering me. And he said, but Alan, you are anointed for what you do. Why are you looking for pulpit ministry in a tax authority? He said, you are an anointed tax collector. And so I am proudly an anointed tax collector. So we began these reforms, and we were looking at two things. We had to have integrity, and we had to be competent. So we did something which I think comes with a health check. Don't do this at home. We decided we were going to draw a new organizational structure, and we were going to ask every person in URA, 2,000 people, to apply again for their jobs. That meant terminating them, because this was a different organization. So I had the wonderful, enviable job of terminating everyone and telling them, you have 2 months' notice, reapply. The jobs are fewer, but anyone can apply. And so through a series of interviews, it took 6 months, we put 500 people on the street and remained a much cleaner and more competent organization. It sounds easy right now. It was frightening then. But things like this have to be done if you are going to deal with corruption. And we were praying. It wasn't like, kind of just got up and did something. We were really, really praying. Second thing, we went back to the taxpayers and said, what kind of service do you want from us? Now remember, up to this point, we were the organization that told every person what they do. And they looked at us and said, huh? What do you want? What are you up to? Well, we said, we want to serve you. Up to this point, all you've known is corruption, high-handedness, arrests, and all manner of wickedness. And so we said, what can we do to serve you? So they began to tell us, well, we don't want to stand in long queues in your offices, because every 15th of the month, we have to line up to come and pay taxes to you guys. And we don't see returns. And it's very expensive. And besides, your laws, the tax laws, are mysterious. We never understand them. And you never take the trouble to talk to us. So we said, okay, you don't want to come, so we're going to make sure you don't have to come. So we built online systems. Said, number two, we're going to teach you. We're going to explain to you. We're going to give you your rights and obligations so that we now front tax education. And people have got to know their rights before you run after them to collect from them. And so we front-loaded service and put auditing and enforcement in the back end. Then we also realized that one of the reasons why people actually don't want to pay taxes is because, why there is non-compliance, is because this institution that is collecting revenue has a really bad image. People don't like us. And so we said, what do we need to do to get people to like the tax collectors? Yeah, so what we did then what we did was to rebrand. We did everything that we could to cut off the old image, including our logo and our colors and our cars and everything, changed everything about us. Then we went into the public to do community work. Some areas are really poor and some schools don't have desks and textbooks. So we began to collect things and say, let's go in and show people that we are tax collectors, but we are here because you pay your taxes. And they began to trust us. And over the years, I can tell it has taken 10 years, God has invaded the tax authority. And because he has, thank you, we've seen revenue grow. In the last 10 years, revenue has grown by 317%. Thank you. The tax revenue we collected, we used to contribute 54 to 58% to the national budget. Last year, we contributed 71.2. And we're going to reduce that slowly because I am convinced we are not a poor nation. We have capacity issues. God has invested so much in Africa, in my country. There is so much resources. We just need to get the people to do the right thing. One of the other things that has shown me that God is doing an incredible work in Uganda Revenue Authority, and what he's doing in URA, he can do anywhere. The people that we have trained that have worked with us a number of years and that have now left the organization are heading big public institutions. Previously, nobody wanted to recruit from URA. In fact, I remember the international agencies like World Health Organization, World Bank had a policy, do not recruit from URA. I now have a problem retaining my people. It's a good problem. Because the people that we have trained are heading the Kampala City Authority. Some of you, I think Gary said you did meet the lady who heads the City Authority, who's turned it completely around. She was our company secretary. The Director of Public Prosecution was my personal assistant. How cool is that? We have people that have gone to the World Bank who are heading regional projects. This is not about me. It was always God's idea. It was God's idea because He didn't just want us to have a good name, but He wanted to serve the people of Uganda. He wanted the children to have a chance to go to school. He wanted medicine in the hospitals. He wanted communities developed. And this organization, this public institution, was just standing in His way because just did not acknowledge God. I am so convinced that if we will invite the kingdom of God to where we are in the public areas, in business, in some churches, I believe that God will take over and we'll begin to see better societies. It has happened in URA, it can happen anywhere. I thank you.